Kia ora. I realize it's 7:29. We're a minute earlier, but nevertheless, kia ora and welcome. Good evening for those of you that are joining us here now. Today, we're bringing something that people have asked us for the longest time, and we're bringing a very special guest with us today. We are going to be talking about early childhood education in New Zealand. We are a trusted partner, immigration and education partner with New Zealand Tertiary College. They are specialists for early childhood education. I doubt that there's anybody out there who hasn't heard NZTC's name. They are the go-to people for ECE courses. And we are just going to sort of really delve into the ECE courses. I'm being joined today by my fantastic friend, colleague, someone I've known for such a long time, Sanil Haria. Sanil, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so pleased that you decided to come and join us and do the session with me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arunima, and it's been pleasure to come on board and be working together with Ames Global for almost more than a decade, and seeing how we can help shape our graduates and our students to get them into more information about early childhood as a career. And thank you everyone again for joining on this session. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, Sanil. So guys, we are going to get deep into the ECE courses today. How that sort of affects the economy, how the ECE teachers are in the skill shortage list in New Zealand. So we're going to cover all of that stuff. Before I get into the details, and I know that I will, we've collected a whole lot of questions, Sanil. We could have you for hours here, Sanil, if it was for me, because we've got so many questions. So what we're going to do is we're just going to nail this real hard, get into those questions. I am, however, first going to start with introducing Sanil. So Sanil currently works as a senior marketing manager with New Zealand Tertiary College. He has been working with NZTC for about 11 years on and off, Sanil, that's right?
Yeah.
And he's very passionate about what he does. I think he's the guru of ECE courses, knows all of it. And just like me and most of the people listening here, he is an ex-international student in New Zealand. And he's now, like you said, very rightly, helping shape the ECE sector and graduates for New Zealand. Okay, Sanil, so let's just start with this. So tell us more about NZTC, please, because I know that you offer some really niche, unique courses in the ECE sector. We will go into those courses, but tell me, because there's so many providers offering ECE, tell me why NZTC?
Why NZTC? New Zealand Tertiary College is a specialist provider of early childhood teacher education, and we've been doing this for more than 39 years. So NZTC was established in 1982, and so for over 39 years, we've been specializing in early childhood teacher education qualifications. We are the oldest and the largest provider of EC qualifications in New Zealand. All our qualifications are approved by NZQA, and our teaching qualifications are approved by our Teaching Council of New Zealand, and also it's been also approved by ACECQA New Zealand.
Okay.
What makes NZTC very unique is that the courses what we offer in teaching has a built-in field experience, which our international students really love. So yeah, and we've been approved by NZQA as a Category 1 provider for fourth consecutive time.
Okay. That's fantastic. So those of you that are joining us, you know that I'm really selective in who I bring to talk with us today. And obviously, we have a very close working relationship with NZTC because I can personally vouch for the quality of education that they are giving the students. So, Sanal, I just want to read out a few things to you that I find really unique about NZTC. I mean, I know for a fact that we've got rolling intakes, right?
Yeah.
So tell me when are these intakes happening, or is it just any time? What do you mean by rolling intakes?
Rolling intakes means a student can start any Monday. So we do not, unlike other institutions, we do not have a fixed intake dates. They can start any Monday. So students can have the flexibility to choose their own start date. This is because of the unique mode of study what we offer, which is called blended learning, which allows the student to start any time. So yeah, I mean, students can choose, and which is
a student can get a visa and just get into the next intake, which is without waiting or anything, they can just literally start the course, isn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So for our teaching qualifications, they can let us know what start date they would like to start. We can accordingly enroll the students in and issue the offer letter to them. Yeah.
Fantastic. And also, obviously, the government just announced, I think it was last week, if I'm not, or was it this week? I'm kind of losing my mind, that the ECE teachers are going to have a 10% increase in salaries. Sanal,
Yeah.
you've heard about that, right? Do you just want to quickly talk to that?
Yes,
When
I
is that
mean
happening?
early. I think they it's currently under the proposal process, but I think they're gonna come up really soon in June or July. But what I've been seeing is because of the demand for ECE teachers are so high, and the amount of efforts that required to become an ECE teacher, the workload which is there with them, it makes real sense because it's a profession at the end of the day. It's a skilled profession, and teachers deserve to get a very high salary.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and our graduates, once they the feedback what we get from graduates is they earn more than what in a way the threshold is to be a skilled migrant in terms of
Yes,
role. Yeah.
I know that for a fact because I am doing a few residence applications for your graduates. So no, that's great. And NZTC does have campuses in Auckland and in Christchurch as well, isn't it? And I think that's something that I've been telling people that have been listening consistently, that if you are looking at, you want to get onto your residence, you want to get those 30 extra points for skilled migrant category, you're probably best off to start studying out of Auckland if you can. And even if you can't, I mean, teachers are in the skill shortage, they're in the regional skill shortage list. It's across all the regions in New Zealand. So even if you've studied in Auckland, you can actually move to any part of the country because, I mean, we're a team of 5 million, like a prime minister says, and, there's a lot of kids, and kids need to go to kindergartens before they start school. So that's an area which, I think they're the most essential workers that New Zealand needs. So that's great. And I think, Sanal, you were just telling me something about, what were you just telling me offline about the students only needing to come into the class every fortnight? So if you are studying a grad dip in graduate diploma level 7 1-year course in ECE, that you only need to come into the school only once a fortnight. Am I right with that? Can you just
Yeah, I mean,
tell me about that?
yeah. Yeah, so the graduate diploma in teaching is offered by blended learning mode, which requires the student to practice 16 hours per week in an EC center. It's called field experience. They have to attend tutorials to the college, which is one day every fortnight for 2 hours. Now, that means that's you're absolutely right. That means the student need not be in Auckland or in Christchurch, the city, to study a course. They can be outside Auckland. This is quite true with a lot of our students. They are some of them are in Hamilton, some of them, example, are in Tapo. Some of the students are up north and they are working in an EC center. They're doing field experience in EC center in those smaller cities or towns, but they come down to Auckland for a tutorial, which is for one day every 2 weeks for a fortnight. And same applies to a Christchurch campus. So we have a student, for example, who is based in Queenstown. She's working in an EC center in Queenstown, but for tutorials, she comes up to a Christchurch campus, which is one day every fortnight.
Okay, no, that's great. And those of you that don't know, EC NZTC offers these two fantastic courses that lead to teachers registration. You've got the graduate diploma in early childhood, which is a level 7 1-year program, and then you've got the bachelor's, which is a 3-year degree. I think now I'm going to get into these courses. So Sanal, can you just quickly tell us what are the entry requirements for getting into the graduate diploma in EC? Because it's a 1-year course. You only need to come to the class once a fortnight. You can, and I'm going to ask you about the combined mode of learning. So I'm going to get onto that as a next question.
Yeah. So the basic entry requirements for graduate diploma in teaching is you need to hold a bachelor's degree. It can be any bachelor's, 3 years, but needs to be assessed by NZQA at level 7. So it can be BCom or bachelor's of arts. It need not be bachelor's of in a related field in teaching. It can be any bachelor's degree as long as it's approved by NZQA. So in terms of academic requirements, we looking at NZQA assessment of their bachelor's degree in any stream. In terms of English language requirements, they have to meet the language requirements set by NZQA or by Teaching Council. Now, lots of international students, what we get is from Asia or Indian subcontinent, and for them, they have to meet language requirements by either sitting for the IELTS or PT test. So the IELTS academic requirement is 7 in each band, or PT academic requirement is 65 in each band. Now, the great thing what Teaching Council has made it really flexible is you can provide this test scores in multiple tests. You can provide test scores in multiple test settings. So, for example, you sit for the IELTS and you scored 7 in reading, writing, and listening, but speaking you scored 6. You have to do another attempt of IELTS, but you can get only 7. Make sure that you get 7 in speaking, and we can combine both the IELTS.
You can take the
Or,
best of two, isn't it? The
yeah, best
best
of
of.
two. Yes, and same applies for PT, but also you can combine IELTS and PT scores as well.
Oh,
So for
really?
example,
So how does that work with combining ours? Because that's fantastic.
yeah, so I'll give you an example. Like a lot of students, they achieve IELTS 7 in each band, but in writing, if you get 6 or 6.5, they can actually sit for the PTE test and ensure they score 65 in writing. So we can actually combine the IELTS and PT scores as well.
Okay, well, that's really unique. I mean, I'm already making points, and I've already counted about 5 really unique points about NZTC, and I'll keep adding on to it. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the bachelor's. So I do know for a fact that you've got the bachelor's. That's a 3-year degree, but it is broken down into different levels and components. So you can, instead of enrolling directly to the bachelor's, you can get into individual years. So if you have a student that doesn't have the right IELTS to, they don't have IELTS 7 to get into the bachelor's, is that what
Yeah.
you need, or is it 6.5? I can't even remember.
Yeah.
What do you
So
need to get bachelor's, please?
Yeah. So Bachelor's of Teaching is a 3-year qualification that leads to registration with Teachers Council. The entry requirement is you need to be a high school graduate, needs to 18 years and above in age, and meet language requirements again, which is IELTS 7 in each band or PT of 65 in each band. But a lot of students, especially who are high school graduates, did not meet the IELTS requirement of 7 in each band. So they start off by enrolling into our diploma qualification, which is called New
Which,
Zealand Diploma.
isn't it?
Yes. So it's called New Zealand Diploma in Early Childhood Education and Care Level 5, which is equivalent to first year of bachelor's degree. So a lot of students start with with that qualification because the IELTS requirement is 5.5 overall with 5 in each band, and they progress into level 6 qualification, which is New Zealand Diploma in EC level 6, and the IELTS is 6 overall with 5.5. So a lot of students, they do level 5 and level 6, and after they finish those two qualifications, they can enroll into a bachelor's degree and finish the 3rd year because they get credits for finishing level 5 and level 6. But they also have to and they have to ensure that they meet the language.
So if I understand this correctly, so if someone doesn't have the right English score, they can actually start with a level 5, get onto a level 6 that gives them 2 years to get ready to take the IELTS requirement, and then once they've got it, they can just transition into the 3rd year.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. So if once they finish 2 years, they meet the language requirements for bachelor's, then they get credits and they finish the final year.
So I'm going to throw something else for you, Sanil, here. So if we've got, and I'm putting my immigration hat on. So if we've got someone who wants to get into the level 5 and 6, so say they're in Auckland, they've done the level 5 and 6. And I think, guys, you need to listen to this because I think I'm going to throw a really good combination out there if we can get it. So if you've done a level 5 and 6 in Auckland, you then take a 1-year open work visa if you haven't taken it previously. Or if you're doing a level 5 and 6 out of Auckland, you get the 2 years open work visa. And if you've taken the open work visa, can you then come back and get into the last year of bachelor's, Sanal? Is that an option?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. That's a possibility. Some students do prefer to go to through that pathway as well. Yeah.
That's fantastic, because then if you are coming back and finishing your bachelor's, even if it's just a year, you are actually eligible for a 3-year open work visa. And the reason why I say that is because for some people, I mean, as you know, in November, the government introduced a few other occupations in that list of skilled occupations. So you've got teacher aide, you've got childcare worker. So if you are looking at those occupations and not a registered teacher, you can possibly explore that 1-year open work visa option. And if you don't get through, you can always go back to the bachelor's. I'm obviously encouraging people to try and finish the bachelor's degree because, as you've seen with the new announcements, government is prioritizing SMC applications where there is an occupational registration, and ECE teachers fall bang on in that space. So that's really, really good to hear, Sanal. I now need to understand from you, because I know that, and I've said this to clients as well, but I just want to understand it for clients and for myself. So one of the other unique things that NZTC offers is this blended learning. And we often talk about the online mode of study and the college-based mode of study and blended. what does it mean? What does it mean in reality?
Yeah. So the online mode of study, for students who want to study in New Zealand, the online mode is not an option. It's only offered to domestic students. Um, in terms of class-based mode of study, we only offer it for the level 5 qualification, which is New Zealand Diploma in EC level 5. So if you want to get into class-based mode of study, which is you come to campus, sit in the class, attend classes for 4 days in a week, it's called class-based mode. But we only offer it to our students doing New Zealand Diploma in EC level 5. Now, this year, we're not being offering a class-based mode of study for the July intake because of the COVID-19 situation, but we may open up again in the Feb 2021 if the situation improves, if and when the situation improves. But the most popular mode, what our international students go for, is blended learning, and it's approved by NZQA, it's approved by Teaching Council, and it's approved by Immigration New Zealand as well. So the blended learning mode of study is actually it's a blend. So it's a mixture of field experience where you have to practice minimum hours per week in an EC center. You have to attend tutorials into the college, and you also need the rest of the studies are online. The assessments and assignments are online. So that's called blended learning mode of study, which is very unique for NZTC.
Okay. I can see some questions building up there, Sanal. So I'm probably going to pause on the questions that I have and jump onto those questions. But just
Sure.
before I do, I've got a question for you. So when you talk about this blended mode of learning, and there's obviously you kind of do it through placement. So you're working in a center. So is NZTC actually helping the student find that center, or is that something that the student does on their own? How does it work?
So we it's all it's case by case. Like some students are already in New Zealand, they already are working as in a center as a reliever. So that can become their home center where they can practice. If they don't, if they're students who have never worked in EC as a reliever or part-time teacher, we what we do is at the time of application we can provide them with a list of EC centers. And the list of EC centers is based on the list of entire Auckland, or depending where they are, which city they are in. So they have to visit those centers, bring with us with their CVs and approach them like they would approach for any part-time or full-time job. Um,
Ah,
and they and they have to. We would give them a center form, which is needs to be filled by the center manager. So we tend to give students time for 1 or 2 weeks to find a home center. Um, till then 100% of our cases have never come across and never find a center on their own. But
I
if
was just
it
going to
becomes
ask
a
that
situation,
whether you had students struggling with it. So that's really good to know that that works really well.
yeah. But if they're
Mhm.
not able to find a center, then we have a field experience team, we have a field practice team. They are in touch with centers to for the placement of the students. So if there is center this contacts us that we need some student relievers or student teachers, then we may be able to pass on that information to anyone looking for a center.
Okay, all right. Okay, no, that's really good. And I think that's a really important point, guys, that obviously that's really good feedback that, people don't struggle finding those centers. And if you do,
Mm.
you are the one out of the 100 that does struggle, then there is support to sort of help you find that center. And when you say the home center, is that the center that you're gaining the main qualification through? What is the home
Yes,
center?
exactly. So the home
Okay.
center is the center where you're gonna be practicing 16 hours as a field experience throughout your studies, and that's where you do your one first full-time field practice,
Okay.
which is a course. It's a 14 weeks in duration. So this course of field practice is divided into 3 sessions of 4 weeks, which is your home center, and there are other 2 sessions. One is in between your studies, which is 5 weeks, which is out of home center, where we will send you to another center. The college will allocate you to go to another center to practice, and then there will be last out of home field practice, which is a 5 weeks again, where we will allocate you to another third center to go and practice.
Okay, so that's leading me. So I've got a lot of questions on that topic, but that's leading me into that next question from Parabjot, where
Yeah.
I think she's asking about something similar. So she's saying, "Hi, what about the practicum in different centers while doing full-time job? Will our job be secure when we work for the other center?" So I think that's exactly what I had in mind. So because they're working in one center, that
Yeah.
center might say, "Well, we want to hire you once you're done," but then they've kind of moved on to a center two and a center three. One, my question is why? Why do they have to do that? And in terms of and I think Prabjot's got a question as well. If you want to talk to it, what happens to the job security with the previous center? Have you had
So
much
I mean,
experience?
No, we don't face any issues because it's a teachers council requirement that the students need to practice in their home center, but they also we need to place them to an out of home center so that we kind of they kind of understand what it's to work in a different environment with a different set of kids. And there are three sessions of field practice because you work with different age group of kids. So there are so as you know in an early childhood setting there are the age groups is called babies, toddlers, and preschoolers. So three field practice means you every time you're working with different age groups, and it's kind of teachers council requirement that you have to go and practice in another home center as part of the requirements. So I don't find it as an issue for
Okay.
students who are working already in one home center. Yeah.
So probably just to let you know that that shouldn't be an issue if it's a requirement and it's working for everybody else. It should be okay. And I now that you've explained it to me, Sanal, I can see the logic that it's really good to get out of that normal comfort zone, see how other centers work, and be really tried and tested, and just know how the outside works because you might get too comfortable in that one center where you've been doing this course.
Yeah.
The next question is by Sandhya Sanal. This is a really interesting question because it does mention you. So her daughter is in South Africa. She sent all the papers in, but Sanal wants a specific form to be filled. South Africa is in lockdown and the form can't be filled right now. So that's holding up her approval process. How can he help? Because you are not accepting the letter she sent you. So Sandhya, before I put that question to Sanal, that is quite a specific case. I don't think we're going to cover any specific cases at this stage. What I might do is I might individually contact you because I don't know if you have representation or you don't or what paper it is, but I can tell you for a fact that if Sanal's really stuck on one paper, that paper must be really important. I've worked with the man for over 10 years, but I will come
Yeah.
back to you. Yeah. Sanal, do you want to add on anything? Because I don't want to take any specific cases here.
No, I mean, I would say that, just send me some information about what exactly the paperwork we're asking for, and we'll see what we can do because sometimes the paperwork is being required by the registry office as per the Teachers Council requirement or NZQ requirements, what we have to meet. And if the student has a justification, explanation, we can work around it. So, yeah.
And Sandhya, I will contact you just to ask some more details around this. So Prab is asking a question in diploma. So I think he's meaning either the diploma, which is the grad diploma, or the two diplomas that get into the bachelors. Are they accepting PTE too?
So all our qualifications are being accepted, approved by NZQA and Teaching Council, and both of them are being, they accept PT. So we do accept PT as an English language evidence.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We've got the next question saying, will a B.Ed from India, NZQA assessed as grad dip level 7, qualify for a grad dip in ECE?
So as I mentioned, for the entry requirements for graduate diploma in teaching is you need to do NZQ assessment of your 3 years bachelor's degree. I understand the B.Ed is 1 year or 2 years, depending on when you have completed that qualification. But as an entry requirement, we want to see whether 3 years bachelor's has come up as level 7, 360 credits, which means it's equivalent to New Zealand bachelor's degree entry requirements. So that's what we would like to see for you to gain academic entry into a graduate diploma in teaching.
Cool. And I know that we haven't, so I know there's questions building up and I'll let them build up because then we can get through
Yeah.
all of them. But I think one of the things that we haven't spoken about is that NZTC also offers the PG and the master's. So there is a level 8 1-year diploma and there is a master's course as well. Now, these two courses do not lead to a registration. Am I right, Sana?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. That's the basic difference with our undergraduate and postgraduate qualifications.
And what are these
Um,
courses
so
teaching people to do then? What are the career outcomes?
So the postgraduate qualifications is more in the education is more inclined towards education management roles in an early childhood sector. So they are non-teaching roles. So anyone who's completing a postgraduate and graduate or master's qualification, they cannot work as early childhood teacher because it doesn't lead to teachers registration. But they can work more in supporting roles like an administrator in an EC center or tutor or lecturer if they want to get more in the academic side of the early childhood, research analyst if you want to work with Ministry of Education, or more in corporate roles in early childhood sector.
So non-registered occupations in the EC space. So I
Yeah.
think there is a niche market, and I think as trusted partners with NZTC, one of the things that we at Ames Global do really specifically and spend a lot of time in doing for our clients is paving those pathways for them. Because I know that, for example, the masters wouldn't lead to registration, but if you've got enough experience from overseas and you are a teacher from overseas and you just need that foot in the door, but you've also got children and you've got the husband and the children are going to school, you will need to come onto a master's if you want to bring your family, because that's the only way your husband can, or the partner can, be on a work visa and the kids can continue going to school. And so that ways, the masters can give you a 3-year open work visa, and you can use that time to actually move towards registration. And one of the other things that I've seen people do, which works really well, is that after masters, when they get a 3-year open work visa, they sometimes use that opportunity to do the grad dip with a variation. So that's something that I'm going to talk about. Now that's my point number 6, which makes NZTC really unique.
Yeah.
So Sanal, we're going to get into that, and I know I'll let the questions build up. But I absolutely have to talk to you about this, because for me, this is the game changer. So if someone is obviously under the transition, a lot of people got 3-year open work visas, and they are on those post-study open work visas. And if they are looking at studying the grad dip, which is a 1.33-year course, I believe, 16 months approximately, they can actually do it with a variation on a work visa. So I can tell that, I can confirm they can. When are the times that people can't do it? Like, can you just tell us from your experience, please?
I think most of the students who are already on that kind of situation is those who are already working in an EC center yet. So we have not come across a situation where student is working somewhere else, right, as of now, and they want to be on a study qualification or graduate diploma in teaching on a VOC on a work visa. So till date, what we got, till 100% of our students are already working in that sector or looking to work in that sector to be able to apply for VOC on the work visa. Because I think there's also push from the centers, from the EC centers, for them to be qualified as well. So I think that's why a lot of employers, So that's why a lot of employers, centers are really, quite flexible with them to work full time and also study on the variations of condition.
Yeah. And just to reiterate that for those of you that are listening, so if you are onshore, you are on an open work visa, and you've got an open work visa which is long enough so you can finish the grad dip within the duration of that open work visa, which is about 16 months plus, you can actually work full time, remain on the work visa, so your family that's dependent on you is not impacted, but also study the grad dip on that work visa with a variation. And sorry, there was just something I was going to ask you, Sanal. It's just completely skipped my mind. I think that's fine. It'll come back to me. Let's just go back to these questions. I can see lots and lots of them building up. So
I just want to add one more thing, Arunima. So the course duration is 16 months for graduate diploma in teaching. But if your childcare center is open during Christmas and New Year break, Christmas and New Year, you can actually complete the qualification faster. So there are a lot of students who are like, so we have our centers open during Christmas and New Year, so we don't want the holiday breaks. So instead of 16 months, if your center is open, you can actually finish the qualification faster, which would be in 12 to 13 months duration.
Oh, really? Okay, well, that's amazing. So then you actually can finish the course. Oh, well, that's fantastic, because a lot of people might just have, because I've spoken to a few people, in fact, this morning, that have got the visas only till August, September next year. So, okay, well, that's great. So I've got Vidhi asking me, I have been a working teacher in India for 10 years now. So if I want to opt for any course, then what course should I opt for?
Vidhi, I would opt you to go for a graduate diploma in teaching in early childhood education, because if you already hold a bachelor's degree, it's the right qualification for you.
Yeah. I've got Imani asking, what will be the next intake after July for international students?
Imani, if you're already in New Zealand, you can choose your own start date. So you let me know when you want to start.
It's every Monday. There you go. But if you are offshore, Sanal, so obviously the borders are closed. And I think now is a really good time to talk about what you just told me. So you've got some students that are offshore that have got the visas and they can start studying. So tell me about that, please. So, how can you start studying the course when you're offshore online? How does that work?
So we waiting for the final approval by NZQ and Teaching Council to see whether we can let those students who already have visas to start online studies. So if that happens, that means those who already achieved the visas and they are offshore in India or any other country, they can start the studies online through NZTC online portal. And as soon as borders opens, they can come to New Zealand and resume their studies here, complete the field practice, graduate to be an EC teacher.
So they might only have to do like 6 months in New Zealand, isn't it? And that's the living
Yeah.
cost that they'll have in here.
Yeah.
That's great. I've run out of the unique points now, so I'll just kind of go with the flow. I think Himani, Vidhi, we've covered those questions. So Himani says, I'm a master's in commerce and also did bachelor's in education. So what will be the best option, graduate diploma or postgraduate? So Himani, we've just said that if you are looking towards a registration, it is the grad dip that leads to registration, or the bachelor's. For you, it'll be the grad dip. The PG doesn't lead to a registration. And yep, that's right, Sana?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Is there any work experience that you require for the grad dip, or can you have fresh people get into it?
So that's again a great thing about a qualification is you need to have experience or previous qualification related background. So as long as you have the love and care for kids, you want to make difference in their lives. That's what we want to see. So you may be from a corporate background, you may have a BCom, you had an MBA, but you love being with kids. You are a young mother, and this is what you want to do. You want to make difference in the life with the children. This is what you want to do since you're very young. So that's what we want to see, and we are there. That's why we are there to help you and support you, to mold you as an EC teacher through our field experience and blended learning mode of study.
Yeah. And Imani, and I think those of you that are joining from offshore or even onshore, one of the things that we spend quite a bit of time doing when we have students that are wanting to change careers, which is completely fine. People can choose to change careers at any stage in their lives, is telling that story, whether telling that story to the provider or telling that story to immigration. That's where we and our advocacy and our representation on the case is quite a key. So, we don't want to put a student into a course and get them to study EC and realize that the child, they actually hate changing nappies or dealing with young kids, because that's going to be setting that person up to fail. So that's something that we, as their immigration advisors, spend quite a bit of time doing. I've got the next one from Parabjot. She's asking, Sanal, what will be the full-time field practice in each semester, or will it be any time during the course?
So the field practice paper is of 14 weeks duration. It's a course, and it's divided throughout your studies in 3 sessions. So there will be first field practice, which will be in your home center at around the first or second month in your studies, and it will be around 4 weeks in duration, and then you continue with your other courses, and then there will be a stop where you'll do another field practice paper of 5 weeks. We will send you to another center, and then there will be a stop again, and then we will send you to third out of home center. This should be at the end of the course of 5 weeks. So it's spread across the entire course. So that's how it works.
Yeah.
So it's full on intensive course. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is done through working. So you're not sitting in a class kind of doing assignments. It's actually through practical, isn't it? It's a very hands-on practical course.
Yes.
Himani, I can answer your next question. So she's asking, will the husband get a work visa for a graduate diploma in EC? A graduate diploma in EC will only allow a visitor's for your partner, because it doesn't allow for a work visa. In fact, a PG dip level 8 also only allows for visitors for the partner. If you are wanting a work visa, then you will have to opt for the master's, but that wouldn't lead you to a registration. So maybe there could be a conversation that we can have with you individually about what could be the right option for you. Sanal, I've got, I'm an essential skills lower work visa. What are the visa options? I did level 8 in business. So I've got Mohit here. I don't know if it is sort of related to ECE. Mohit, I'm not sure if your question is purely immigration. If it is, then my team will attend to it. If it is ECE, can you please clarify? Sanal, I've got next one from Pradeep. It says, I have already finished my open work visa and work visa, and now I'm on an essential skills work visa, which is going to finish in October of this year. May I able to get again open work visa after I finish my ECE level 7, because I'm planning to do ECE before my work visa finish? So I think what the person's trying to say is that they've taken an open work visa previously. I don't know what they've studied previously, but they're asking if they're going to get an open work visa again. I can possibly take that one, Sanal, if that's all right.
Yeah.
It's an immigration question. So if you've taken an open work visa previously and you are doing a level 7 now, you will not get an open work visa again. And that's something that we have worked with people and advised people. It is slightly technical, but if someone is on an open work visa and you're gaining the course through a variation, then there's an option to extend that for another year, because it leads you to a registration. But if you have exhausted your open work visa and you're going on to a student visa, you wouldn't meet the requirements of the post-study work visa open again. But There is an option to take an essential skills. And like I said, teachers are in the regional skill shortage list, but there is a 2-year experience that's required in the regional skill shortage list. I know for a fact that we do a lot of essential skills visas in the space where employers have advertised and they just haven't found anyone. So, and that can lead you to a 3-year work visa. So there is definitely a pathway, even outside the open work visa space. What would be the scope for Masters of Early Childhood Education from NZTC? So we have covered some of these, but I think we'll just quickly touch on these because people are asking these questions.
Yeah, so master's qualification, first of all, does not lead to teacher's registration. So you cannot work as an early childhood teacher, but it would lead to non-teaching roles in an EC sector. So some of the roles you can look at is working as an administrator, or more research kind of roles in EC, or working as a tutor or lecturer, or more in corporate EC environment. So it's purely non-teaching roles in an EC sector, which you can look at after doing a postgrad or master's qualification.
Yeah. And then we've got the next one, and we do get this question asked quite a bit. It says that if, I've done, so this person probably has a bachelor's previously, they've done a postgraduate course, it's from Preet, and they're asking if they can actually go into a grad dip, because I think one of the things the myth that they have in their head is that they've done a higher qualification and they can't go lower. It is a myth. Sanal, my answer would be absolutely yes. You can go for a grad dip. You can even go for bakery as well. Whatever you want, doesn't matter what the level is. What is your experience here, please?
Yeah, I mean, we always come across students who are applying from India, who hold a postgrad or masters. Although already in New Zealand, who done some other postgrad courses or masters courses. But in order to be an early childhood teacher, graduate diploma in teaching is the only qualification, which is at level 7 approved by Teaching Council. So if you're looking to be an EC teacher, you have to do that qualification, which is at level 7. And absolutely, I guess, I mean, we are quite supportive of that. The Teachers Council is quite supportive of that. The immigration is quite supportive of that as well, who want to study this qualification.
And we obviously will sort of, make sure that we make that case, because there is a statement of purpose that goes with it. So it's that intention that, the advisor is going to help you put together. So that's where we play quite a key part. I've got Rick Sharma asking, so they're obviously in New Zealand, they're on an open work visa. Do they need to pay international fee or domestic? If they want to do ECE, and can I pay in installments?
Yeah, so thank you, Ramandeep, for asking that question. If you're on a work visa, you are categorized as international student. So domestic students are those who already have a New Zealand permanent residence or citizens. So if you're not a permanent resident or citizen, you are categorized international students. So you have to pay international fees. But we do help our students who are in New Zealand with a two fees installment option, where you can pay the fees in 2 equal installments. So that's an option which we can provide to you. So that means you can pay half fees at the time of enrollment, another half in the middle of the course. This is subject to approval, obviously, by our senior management. But definitely, there is an option where you can pay the fees in 2 equal installments. And especially in this COVID-19 situation, we kind of understand and we want to support anyone who wants to be an EC teacher.
Yeah. And I think we have done visas for people that are paid half first semester and then the second semester. And also when you are doing that, you can also half your living expenses. So instead of showing 15,000 for the year, if you're going on a student visa, you can actually use the 7,500 and then, use the 7,500 if you haven't used that money. So that sort of leads me into the next question, Sanal. Because of COVID-19, obviously people have been impacted, pockets are tight, people have lost jobs. Is there any bursaries or scholarships or anything of the sort that's available for people wanting to get into this now?
Currently, we're not offering any scholarships or discounts to international students looking to enroll into our qualifications. But definitely, we are more flexible in providing 2 equal installment options in terms of fees payment for our students. So before it was case by case, but we are more flexible and open at installment payment options. So we're definitely looking to provide that assistance at least to our international students.
Yeah. So Himani is asking, what is the intake for offshore students? So I think, Himani, the borders are closed. We don't know when they are going to be opening. So what are the normal intakes for offshore, under normal circumstances?
We got 4 major intakes in a year, which is February, April, July, and October. Again, Himani, you can choose your own start date and arrive whenever you want to start the course. But we have 4 major intakes where we do a much bigger orientation, because especially for international students coming from offshore, it's very important they go through an orientation with us, because you're new in this country, you want to understand about the culture and the studies in it to go to staff. So we got 4 intakes which I would recommend you, which is February, April, July, and October.
Yeah, and Himani, I will let you know that the borders are closed, and at this stage, international students are not able to come in, and we can't advise when the borders will open. But do watch the space, because we are absolutely keeping people up to date. As soon as something comes in, like within 10 minutes, the news is on our Facebook page. So follow us. And I know I'll just lead into the next question, Himani, that you asked. There is no installment plan for offshore because immigration, the visas are issued by Mumbai, and they need to see a receipt of minimum 1 year. So there is no installment plan. So you will need to pay for minimum 1 year, and 1 year living expenses are the minimum that you have to show.
Yeah. I just want to add to that, Himani. So, but the applications are open. So we have a lot of offshore students applying. So you're more than welcome to apply, go through the enrollment process, and we'll be able to assist you with an offer letter with the future intake. So you're more than welcome to apply and go through enrollment process.
Yeah. Cool. And I can see quite a bit of repeat questions coming up here. So there's questions around master's courses, if they lead to a registration. No, the master doesn't lead to a registration. So those of you that are joining us late, this video will be available on our Facebook page, and you're more than welcome to just go in and have a quick listen, but we will be individually coming back to you. Sanal, do you just want to add anything there? Is there anything that you want to add there?
No, definitely. We would like to assist you if you have any specific questions. So please feel free to query through AIMS, and I'll be more than happy to assist you.
Thank you. Sanal, I've just got a couple of more things that I want to go through, and then we'll sort of start wrapping this up. So there's people that will sort of come in and they may not have the right IELTS. So say, for example, if someone wants to get into the bachelor degree and they may not have the IELTS, that's the English score that's required to get into the bachelor's. The first question is, what's the pathway for them? If there's any relaxation or an English course they can do to get into the bachelor's. And then how does the same scenario work for the grad dips? Can you just talk to us about those things?
So for students who want to enroll into a bachelor's qualification coming from offshore where they don't have the IELTS or English meet language requirements, I recommend them they come through the pathway program, which is they enroll into a level 5, which is New Zealand diploma in EC level 5. So they can apply for an unconditional offer letter for level 5, but we can also help you with a conditional offer letter for level 6 and also a conditional letter up to bachelor's degree, which means that you enroll with a level 5 qualification. But since your intention is to complete bachelor's, we will also issue with a conditional offer letter, which will help you, to apply for to study up to bachelor's degree as well. You have to meet language requirements, entry requirements at every stage. But then, because Arunima, I can explain it better, but we are part of the student visa pilot project program as well. And we've seen some of the AIM students, especially last year, who came through that pathway program as well, who didn't meet the language requirements for bachelor's, but they came in to study a level 5, level 6, and bachelor's.
Yeah. So essentially, guys, what it means is that you can go into the bachelor's, but chop the bachelor's into 3 parts, and you get an offer letter for each part, which leads into the second part. So you will get 3 offer letters essentially, and your IELTS requirements, that you need to have for the bachelor's will only be applicable for the last year. So that is called the pathway program, and we've had successfully done quite a few offshore students that have come from India and they are studying those courses. I wanted to sort of, I know there's another question from Mohit. We'll get on to that, and then I've got another question as well. If I go for level 7 ECE, how many years of visa do I get? Do I get open job search because I already used 1 year after level 8? I'm quite happy to answer that if you want, or you can take it.
Yeah.
I should probably take it. It's immigration.
Yeah,
there you
yeah.
go. We don't want
guys. No, stay away.
No, that's all right. Okay, so so there's a few scenarios here. If you're a fresh student and you are doing a level 7, whether you do because the grad dip leads you to a registration with the New Zealand Teachers Council, whether you do it in Auckland or you do it in Christchurch, you get a 2 years open work visa instead of 1. A normal grad dips will give you 1 year open work visa. The grad dip in ECE, because it leads to a registration, gives you 2 years. Because you've done a level 8, so if your scenario specifically is that you've done a level 8 and you've taken your open work visa and then you're going down to studying, because the level 8 would give you technically a 3 year open work visa if you're coming now. But if you were previously and now you're in, say, essential skills or whatever, and now you're wanting to get back into the grad dip, you will not get another open work visa. But like I said earlier in my session, there are really good pathways through essential skills, and teachers are in the regional skills shortage in New Zealand. So there are pathways that you can use to get that essential skills work visa for 3 years, which is a long enough time for you to then apply for residence. So I think just to wrap this up, just to tell people a little bit of, just give them a little idea of what the residence is, because obviously that's the goal for a lot of these people. If you have studied with NZTC, you've taken your graduate diploma, you've got your registration, and if you get a job that's outside of Auckland, you get the 30 extra points. With that combination, so you've got an ECE teacher job out of Auckland, with that combination, you have enough points, you've got 160 points to apply for your residence. At this stage, immigration is prioritizing applications that require registration. So, when you have the 3-year essential skills, that's enough time for immigration to grant you a residence. Yeah? Sanal, I want to ask you about the registration process. So when students are doing these courses, and I know that we're at 8:15, so we'll have to cut this off right after this question. So when students are doing, when they finish the course and they're applying for registration, is it quite a streamlined process? Does NZTC help students to apply for registration, or how does it work?
So it's a quite streamlined process. That's what I heard from our graduates. What NZTC does is definitely assist them with the graduation certificate and transcripts, which is required by Teachers Council as part of the documentation process. But it's an independent process because it's with Teachers Council, which is an independent body. But what I've heard from our graduates, it's pretty straightforward process when they go through the application form and the documents which they need to submit. And the standard processing time is, I guess, 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. That's what I've heard. And again, what I've heard from our graduates is that there's no test or exams to give to go for the registration. So it's pretty straightforward. And for our graduates, it's been always streamlined. So I've never heard any of our graduates saying we're being asked to provide this document or that document again.
Yeah, and I do know this for a fact, the registration process, because we do registration for teachers that are overseas, that are coming from overseas in the primary, secondary sector. So we help them through the NZQA and the registration process. So I know that, they're really rigid in what they want, but if you can provide them, then it's done within the time frame. So it's quite a streamlined process. So Sanal, I think with that, that's a lot of questions. I hope you're not tired, because that was quite a bombardment of questions, but I'm sure that I personally really appreciate you coming and answering these questions. I know these people have found them valuable. So thank you very, very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. With that, we're going to call this a night. We will join with you next week for another session. So watch our Facebook page for seeing what's coming up next. Have a good night. See you guys. Bye.